Hi everyone, welcome to the Evolve and Execute with Rajiv Bajaj, another episode, another day. And today we have Miss Nikita Singh with us. So the episode of Evolve and Execute always cover the various challenges and we try and convert those challenges into opportunities. And that's how we strategically pivot without losing momentum. And that's what our topic of the day is strategic pivots, turning challenges into opportunities, knowing when and how to shift focus without losing momentum in a startup. So Nikita is a startup, uh, mentor as well as she has her own startup. So Nikita, so we thought that you are the best person to fit into this episode of ours, and you can definitely share your experience. So we are tackling the essential topic, which is very important for startups, and that is understanding when to shift focus and pivot strategically in the face of challenges whether it's a market shift, operational hurdles, or disruptive competition, or making the right pivots can be the game changer because that's where the change management is something which I think all startup should learn very carefully. So today we are joined by Ms. Nikita Singh, who's founder of Aam Panna Creations. He has empowered early stage startups through innovative strategies. Welcome, Nikita, to our show. Can you share a bit about yourself and your journey with our audience?
Thank you so much, Rajiv, for having me at Evolve and Execute and also having me for a very important topic about pivots, which is very essential for the audience. As you rightly and beautifully told about myself, I am Nikita Singh, the founder of Aam Panna Creations, where we tend to be strategic partners in growth to early stage startups. And 2025, we aim to empower as many women led and social enterprises as we can through the role and goal of marketing. And here we are utilizing the power of storytelling. I also, apart from all of this, mentor students, startups at different levels. I provide one on one consultations, author books, and write. And that's one of my secondary images. Thank you once again for having me here.
Perfect. So, as we were discussing, the topic is recognizing the need for a pivot. And Nikita, every startup faces challenges, and at some point, there is always a pressure coming from here and there. So, how do you recognize when a setback is actually an opportunity for a strategic pivot rather than a sign to stay in that course?
A very good question. And a lot of startup founders feel that every pivot, every challenge is an answer to failure and a stretch to failure, rather. But what I would like to say is that it's deep inside that you strategize, understand, and know. Because every time the industry standards would say that the market trends say something, your competitive analysis would say something, XYZ company, directly or indirectly, being part of your space can or cannot be running revenues growing at the same rates. But I think the right point of taking challenges as opportunities is when you understand that inside there is an iteration rate. Your team is not able to handle the situations. There are SOP problems, there are operational challenges. Your client feedbacks and retention rates are problematic. And that is where you can take that direction forward. And that is when we as a company, after every 3 months, sit back, redefine and restructure, and we realize that customization is the key of what we do, but customization cannot sail and customization cannot scale as well. So SOPs and structures need to be there, hero products need to be there, and we need to shift from just being a service oriented company to being a product oriented companies and setting up smaller goals to really feed what our clients need. And I think that's where these challenges helped us become opportunities.
Okay. Okay. So, can you identify some challenges that typically trigger these strategic pivots in startups, and how critical is the timing of these decisions?
I think a lot of times it's the biggest one is the market trend. A lot of startups failing in the same industry, a lot of losses happening, a lot of competitors popping up. But I think that's not the very signal I would say to the audience that's listening to us. I think it's inside rather than outside. You can still reach out to an audience, a market set, even if the market size is shrinking, even if the market size is not being able to capture, because pivots can also be in terms of the same solution given in a different way. It's always inside stories that would help you know what's working and what's not working and when to pivot. And that's where clientele feedback, team SOPs, team structures, team iteration rates are the biggest concerns that need to be taken. And timing is most important per se, because at a very early stage you still don't know, but a lot of founders feel that it's 6 months, it's 1 year, I'm not able to do it, I'm not getting the right revenue, should I pivot, should is the market not right? 6 months or 1 year is a very small time even for you to build a brand. So brand building is a strategic process, it would take time. If you feel that there's a zero some story, that's not going to happen. It's only a small single step by step pivots that's going to take things forwards. So pivoting at the right time and pivoting at the right amount is the right way. You cannot rebuild a brand from naming a brand XYZ and making it a fruit brand and then just shifting it and making it a marketing agency. It's not going to happen. But if you're making a fruit brand and you see that that industry is not growing, you can at least shift back timely to making it exotic fruit industry brand or even ice cream brand that can still survive. So pivoting at the right time with the right amounts is what's needed.
Right, very rightly said. Decision making and strategy behind the pivot is also important. And so let's dive deeper into the decision making process. What's critical, according to you, which factor should the founder evaluate when considering a pivot, whether it is a market trend, customer feedback, or financial indicators?
I think for most of the industries, it's financial indicators because without funds, you cannot survive. Now, by financial indicators, I don't mean if you've not got an angel fund, a VC fund, and accelerators, or incubators, you're not succeeding. That's not going to be the case. There are bootstrap companies that survive, and the goal of running a startup is running a marathon, not a sprint. But at certain points, also realizing that you need a talent pool, you need certain assets, tools to run a company, and having that bare minimum to sustain for a longer run is important. So finances is the first very important factor that decides where you take the system to. The second could be market trends, but that can be balanced because market trends go up and down. Market trends, very sadly, a lot of times influenced by the global we see industry, the thesis that they build, the major industries that they put their money on. And that is what leads to a lot of other factors. So, market trend can be a decisive factor, but I think for me, the first pivotal is finance. The second would be operations. If you cannot find the right set of people to work with you, to work for your idea, work with your structures, there's something ethically, there's something systematically and strategically wrong, and you need to pivot. And that's the biggest loophole in the industry.
Great, great. So, in your experience, what role does the startup culture play in embracing the pivot? And is there a mindset that can prepare a team for these transitions?
I think in general, the environment, the culture plays a very important role in any startup. At Aam Panna Creations as well, we are very strategically building teams where we have our own mental health sessions, external experiential sessions. We have appreciation meetings, we have appreciation tokens, a lot of things that happen, fun Fridays, things beyond activities that are at work. Because all of this tend to also help you speak up to people like families, not just monetarily. Because if you are to people talking in terms of salaries and monetary benefits, you're not going to run the business in certain manner. So culture in journalistic terms as well plays a very pivotal role. What's also important to understand is that being very, very communicative and transparent. Transparency from the T. Even if it's an unpaid intern or advisory board, they should be knowing each and everything about the company from you as a founder. Because if they know when what's coming, when the highs will happen, when the lows will happen, and then the guilt and blame gaming will not happen inside the company, because you know that's going to be a culture where the company would appreciate you with the right sense, and your team will also stand back when days when it's not working. And third, I think a culture of learning, a culture of growing is important, because as a founder you also have very limited set of experiences, ideas and strategies, and that's where creativity comes in. Your team should have the power to actually add on to ideas and strategies to help you pivot in the right direction. So that's the culture that in general also companies should be building.
Great insights. Team building is at the end of the day very, very important for any startup. And if you're not able to pay very high salary, you have to keep at least the motivation level very, very high and keep them all involved in the day-to-day affairs. So, execution, which is turning challenges into actionable opportunities is very, very important because I think that is the crux of our topic today. So, once the pivot decision is made, how do you structure the execution to ensure that it doesn't disrupt the existing momentum of the startup?
Very rightly said, execution is the key, because you've already decided to pivot and you are already at a point where you're sailing. You're trying to just survive and sail. I think here, as I answered the earlier question as well, communication is very, very important. Over communication is important at this point, for everyone to know that what's happening, what's to come forward, what's to expect forward, and what they can put their foot forward to. A lot of managerial roles, a lot of role changes will happen. A lot of people would have multiple things on their plate. A lot of people would have less things on their plate and would be supporting roles to a lot of people. So that's also very, very critical and important at that very moment. And I think setting up small goals. For instance, you are making a new product. Now, at the very onset, you cannot make 100 copies of that product, 200 copies, and 500. But if you set smaller goals of, say, 10 copies a week and getting that quality check, getting the right product, and taking it to the market, that's only going to help you, because at the end of the day, it's only the in totality the team that's going to take you forward with the right mindset and with the right steps and SOPs.
Perfect, perfect. Very intriguing inputs you are giving. So, could you share a real world example of a pivot executed effectively? What are the key elements that led to success? If you can share that.
I think pivots have been ways of small startup, big startup all across the globe, from giants like Netflix that started as a DVD brand and now is an OTT brand, pivoted at the right time to understand the need of the hour. The way they started was not a wrong way. DVDs were part of that industry, but to grow, to survive, they had to make a pivot. And that's the right globalization that they found. If we talk about global giants, social media giants like YouTube, Instagram, all of them had their pivots. Instagram started off as a brand that was a chat brand, a playing games brand, a normal photo sharing brand. And today, with the need of the industry, it became a content creation brand, and it became a brand for marketing of brands. So I think these are great success stories of knowing what the global economy needs, where you can have the largest share of what you're trying to do. Because obviously there are two ways: either you have a bigger market share in a smaller niche, or you have a bigger niche and a smaller market share. Otherwise you're not going to survive in the industry, and that's where all of these players have played a very big role. Indian market also has great examples like Snapdeal, that started with just coupon industry and then now pivoting into a big e-commerce giant. So all of us, even Aam Panna Creations, have had its own pivots from being a customized industry to now having hero products and building AI tools and being very specific to the niche that we cater. I think these pivots, these specializations are important, and they are because of the trends and needs of the market and also needs of the company. Because you can only survive with less. No, you have to grow. So that's very, very important.
Perfect. I think the important point is what are the lessons learned and how change management practices are adopted in managing these pivots. So, reflecting on your experience, what are the biggest lessons you have learned from both successful and less successful pivots?
I think the biggest learning is that as somebody founding a company, you have to have a pause button. You cannot always be running a marathon or even a sprint, because that's not how startup journeys and founder journeys are. Pausing, defining, and redefining happens. Even if your yearly goals are 20 lakh rupees, just hypothetically, and after 3 months you realize that there's some structural change needed, there is an operational change needed, or this is strategically not possible, that's not a call for a failure. That's your strategic way to pause, refoundation things, redefine things, and understand. And that's the very biggest lesson. The second thing is, a lot of us tend to say founder market fit is not something that's important. Product market fit is what is important. But I think all of these pivots have made me understand that a founder market fit is more important than a product market fit. Because a right founder in the right industry can even build a failed startup to the right sense. But a right product in the wrong hands cannot be taken into any directions. And a third very, very important aspect of my learning is that journeys and pivots are not always about X amounts and X percentages of revenues and growths. They're about the real impact, the real people that you're trying to reach. If your product is or service is even solving 1% of the ecosystem, over the years it will automatically solve it for 10 and 100 and thousands again. But if it's not solving the right problem to the right people, even if you're growing at X amounts, there would be a point where you have to pause, and pausing at that point would be really difficult. So I think that's the key learning out of life and pivots.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, what's the mindset shift should founders adopt to navigate this transition very confidently? Because that's the very important thing. And how do you maintain team morale during uncertainty?
I think the biggest mindset shift that a founder in general also should have is that founder roles and being a founder is a bumpy road. It will have its own ups and downs, but understanding that when you've started with your own passions, your skill sets, there's something that's going to work. All days cannot be a rainy day, there has to be sunshine. But if you think and expect life to be straight always, it's not going to happen. It's you who is actually going to lead your team. And in those low moments, when you stand by your teams, is when you actually survive and when you actually grab the right talent. A lot of startups I've heard of, and my own example as well, have these mental health programs, or even given salaries at points when they themselves don't have house rents to pay or basic bare minimums to save for. But that very pivotal confidence of letting your employees and talent pool know that we are standing here, we know where we can go, and these are just phase and testing times. That mindset will itself like take you forward. The second important thing is feedbacks. I think team needs a lot of feedback, but with a sense and tint of appreciation. A lot of founders, when they're pivoting, they have a very basic sense of issue that the team was a problem. My team was not right. I could not build the right team. Could you be the right founder? That's the very big question. Because building the right team takes the right leadership. And that's where, even if there's 100% fault of an employee or a talent pool, always come from a shoe of empathy and always give a feedback which has an appreciation. Hey, you tried your best. I think it did not work in our favor. And let's solve this and figure out what we can do best. And I think that little modes of appreciation, that little modes of hand of holding is what will take you to higher places, because great brands were never built with crores in their hands and big salaries. They were built with right set of people and right mindset.
Perfectly said. Leadership is all about the leader knowing all that how to go, which way to go, and all that stuff. Okay, very nice. We have a rapid fire round where we'll ask you some quick questions. And, this is definitely going to be on strategic pivoting only. And you need to just reply in, you know, first thing that comes to your mind. So I think, so one word that defines your approach to pivots.
I think adaptability.
Perfect. A challenge that sparked a major opportunity.
I think customization itself was a challenge that gave us the major opportunity.
Okay. Okay. So can you little bit elaborate on that? You
Yeah.
can do that.
So in our case, all our services are customized to the need and stage of startups. But I think in down the lane, we have figured out our hero products. We've figured out our minimums and maximums. We've figured out our combinations. We've figured out different products that we want to build along with services. So all of that customization was once that has now helped us double down on different opportunities for us.
Perfect. Uh, the best piece of advice for a founder facing uncertainty.
I think believe in yourself, believe in your value, and keep doing. Because if you manifest the best and keep trying, I think the solutions will itself come by. But you have to keep trying and keep going. That's the only way.
Self belief is a very powerful thing. So then definitely, yeah, very useful advice. A common myth about pivoting in startups.
I think the biggest common myth, as I've already reiterated multiple times on this podcast, is pivoting is a failure. That's a myth. Pivoting is your chance to scale, grow, to figure out what needs to be done, or to figure out if you want to pivot out of the startup and start something else.
One book or a quote that inspires your approach to strategic change.
I think I read a lot of books, so one book is a difficult chance for me. But there's this quote that my brother, who's my mentor and my advisor at this business as well, says that if you do bare minimum, the results will be bare minimum. So it's all about giving your best. You always will receive the best. It might be a game of perseverance, patience, time, but at the end, there should not be a feeling of regret or guilt that I could have done better and maybe the results would have been better. So I'm not sure if this is a quote that he's imbibed from somewhere, but that's what I've heard from him and that stayed always in life.
Great. That's a good input. I think we had a very good discussion on pivoting, and we really went into deep analysis of how these startups are impacted and how they should actually handle the pivot at what time and the right strategy. So, recognizing that every challenge holds a potential for opportunity, which is there, and significance of timing and data-driven decision making with AI coming in place, lots of new tools are available for everyone. But how to use those tools and how to know at one place which tool to use, that is also becoming a science in itself. And the importance of the resilient, adaptable mindset in overcoming uncertainty is also very, very important. So, the key takeaway we are getting from our today's interaction is that how well-timed pivots is not a setback; it's an opportunity to steer your startup towards sustainable growth and success, and embrace the change, uh, learn continuously, and lead your team through transition with clarity and purpose. So that's quite a impactful, message. I think we are taking away from this discussion of ours. So, Nikita, any last piece of advice as you have been mentoring a few startups as well? And out of your experience, I'm sure you must have seen some challenges being handled in a very different way by startup entrepreneurs. So, what is you share your experience on that?
Thank you so much for that question. I think my last piece of advice to all startups, as I mentor and say, is figure out what you want to build, but also figure out what the audience and the customers need. A lot of times when I go back to different incubators and places where I mentor, a lot of these startups and these ideas are solutions that these founders want to build. These are not solutions that the industry needs. These are not solutions that can solve problems. And that is where the biggest question comes in, that have you tested your market? Have you have had pain point interviews with the right set of people? Have you talked to people of the actual problem and what could be the potential solution? So first figure out a problem, then figure out a solution, because honestly, being a founder is no fancy tag. It comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of ups and downs. It comes with a lot of financial empty bank accounts for years for a lot of us. So take that decision wisely, because the money that you a lot of times utilize from governments and a lot of VCs, etc., can be utilized in real ideas that can solve problems. And ideas need not be ideas that are fresh out of box or innovations. They can be ideas that are already solving something, and you solve it in a better manner. But finding the problem is important. And please, if you are a college student listening to this, move away from your college fancies of interviewing your college friends and classmates and saying that this solution will work and this problem is a valid problem, because they are just your friends who are at this point helping you feel like a founder. And at the end, the real world is really different, and you have to move out there and figure out the problems.
Good input on that. I always tell whenever I also do mentoring that when you do your own SWOT analysis, don't take the feedback from your friends who are close to you, because they will never disappoint you. Their idea is always to make you feel happy, and they will always say good things about you and your idea or whatever. So take a real world input. That's a very, very strong feedback you are giving. And I think everybody should learn from this, that not only democratizing the decision, you should actually discuss it on the ground. You should actually go to the markets, go to the places where, which, if you think this is a problem you're solving, ask people whether it is a real problem or not, or what is their opinion about it, and then offer your solution and analyze whether it is going to work or not. So, very, very strong message there. So, Nikita, thank you for sharing your valuable insights and the real world experiences on pivot strategies and startups. And to our listeners, always remember, challenges are just stepping stones to new opportunities. Keep exploring, pivot smartly, and remain unstoppable in your entrepreneurial journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel. Until next time, it's CS Rajiv Bajaj signing off, encouraging you to transform challenges into opportunities and pivot with purpose. So, last words from you, Nikita.
Thank you so much for having me here and giving this opportunity to speak back to all our listeners and everybody. And thank you so much for having this very, very important topic, because I feel it's in the last 3 months where I realized the power of pivots and understanding what works and what does not work. Because we are so engrossed in building startups like a baby that we are stuck to one idea and we are like, this will work because we are passionate, we know the skill set. But the real world is different, and it's always the testing times that give you the real opportunities. And I'm very glad that we had the discussion, and a lot of people will learn about all of this. And a lot of people will know that marketing is also a very essential and integral part of building a brand. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah,
Very rightly said. Thanks a lot, Nikita, for taking time out. And I'm sure this episode of our is going to be eye opener for lots of startup entrepreneurs, and they will learn a lot from our discussion today. Thank you, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye bye.
bye.